All right, guys, so we got to talk about a pretty fascinating and awkward interview on CNN between Dana Bash, Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, and Ilhan Omar. Now, the Congress people that they had on this network for this interview with Dana Bash, they all got removed from their committee assignments by Kevin McCarthy for various reasons, and also in retaliation for the Democrats removing Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar from their committee assignments last year. Now, CNN is giving Democrats an opportunity to go and explain to the American people, why they were kicked off their committees and why it was wrong. An opportunity that they didn't give to Marjorie Taylor Greene or Paul Gosar, right? But they're actually going to do some decent journalism here. It's not great, okay? But it's decent. In which Dana Bash is actually going to confront each one of them with the allegations from Kevin McCarthy in regards to why they got kicked off their committees. And at points in this conversation, it did get pretty awkward. So I want to talk about that. In the first segment I want to talk about is Dana Bash asking Eric Swalwell about his relationship with the Chinese spy, Fang Fang, who he allegedly banged, which makes him a national security liability. Take a look.
Congressman, you were also removed by Republicans from the Intelligence Committee. What the Speaker said about you is that beginning in 2012, a suspected Chinese spy developed ties to you and to your office, even put an intern there, raised campaign funds for you. You say very clearly you cut off ties with this person back in 2015 when you found out you cooperated with the FBI. But the bottom line question is this. Did you put yourself in a vulnerable position in any way so that this alleged Chinese spy could have benefited or even learn American secrets?
Yeah, absolutely not. But Dana, don't take my word for it. Take the FBI's word for it. They never talk about ongoing investigations. And former Chairman Schiff knows this as a member of the Gang of Eight. 3 different times they came out and said 2 things. All I did was help them. And also, I was never under any suspicion of wrongdoing.
Yeah, so I know that CNN is on cable news, so I know they never do this, but I just wish they would just straight up ask him, did you have sex with this Chinese spy? Right? Did you bang Fang Fang? Right? Did you clap them cheeks? Did you eat that stir fry? Seriously, I wish they would just ask him that question straight up, okay? That's what everybody wants to know, okay? Did you have a sexual relationship with somebody who was a spy? But, CNN will never really ask the tough questions. That's why I call this kind of a softball. But, hey, they're trying, right? They're trying. Next, we have Adam Schiff, who basically lied about the Russia collusion scandal, okay? He perpetuated the idea that Trump and Putin were butt buddies. He also peddled the Steele dossier, with the allegations of the Trump PP tapes that Trump likes to get pissed on by Russian prostitutes. Yeah, he basically pushed all types of lies in an attempt to overthrow a duly elected president. And CNN asked Schiff about his role in that, in the lies that he spread with the Russian collusion hoax. Take a look.
You said that there was direct evidence of the fact that Donald Trump colluded with Russia back in 2016. Special counsel Robert Mueller said in his report, quote, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government. Republicans argue that's proof that you used your position on the Intelligence Committee to intentionally mislead Americans, which is why you should not be on that committee.
If you read the Mueller report, he makes clear, even in the first few pages of the report, that he states no conclusion on whether Donald Trump and his campaign colluded with the Russians. But what he does reveal in his report, what we found in our investigation, is that Donald Trump's campaign manager was sharing internal campaign polling data and their strategy for key battleground states with an agent of Russian intelligence, while that same unit of Russian intelligence was helping the Trump campaign.
Let me give you another. He says that this is part of a pattern. Ahead of the first Trump impeachment, you said the committee had not spoken to a whistleblower. In fact, that turned out not to be true. The Washington Post said so in their fact check.
The Washington Post identified that, yes, before the person became a whistleblower, they sought advice from the committee. When I was asked the question, I thought they were referring to whether we had brought the whistleblower in. And I should have been more clear in my answer.
Yeah, so of course, Schiff deflects, okay, or double down on this idea, the propaganda that Trump colluded with Russia, okay? Again, he will never let it go, even though he clearly was wrong, right? Everybody knows he was wrong, including Twitter knew that he was wrong, okay, while he was trying to use that as an excuse to ban people that he doesn't like from Twitter, which in my opinion is a violation of the First Amendment, him being a government official trying to do that. But, you know, CNN didn't get into the nitty gritty. They didn't push back as hard as they tend to push back against Republicans because these are Democrats, right? And the only reason they're asking these questions in the first place is because they want the world to see how wrong it was for the Republicans to remove them from their committee assignments. So on to Ilhan Omar, who has been accused of making anti-Semitic comments in which she claims that she didn't know that she was an anti-Semite. Take a look.
I certainly did not or was not aware that the word hypnotize was a trope. I wasn't aware of the fact that there are tropes about Jews and money. That has been a very enlightening part of this journey. To insinuate that I knowingly said these things when people have read into my comments to make it sound as if I have something against the Jewish community is so wrong. If you remember, when I first got elected to Congress, it was when the FBI report came out on the rise of anti-Semitism. As a rep elected, the first op-ed I wrote was on that report, which I talked about how it was important for us as a community to coalesce around the Jewish community and fight against anti-Semitism.
And of course, she also deflects by insinuating that Republicans are racist and Islamophobic and xenophobic against her because she's a Muslim African woman. Take a look.
That's something that we should all have the opportunity to do so. But to smear someone and their character, their love for their country, and the work that they get to do on a committee is wrong, and it is politically motivated, and in some cases is motivated by the fact that many of these members don't believe a Muslim, a refugee, an African should even be in Congress, let alone have the opportunity to serve on the Foreign Affairs Committee.
You said that before. I mean, it sounds like you're accusing Kevin McCarthy of racism.
I mean, I'm not making any accusations. I'm just laying out the facts. You remember Donald Trump coming into my state and saying Muslims, Somali refugees are infiltrating our country. You remember Marjorie Taylor Greene coming to Congress after Rashida and I got sworn in and saying Muslims are infiltrating Congress. You remember Boebert saying that I was a terrorist. What did McCarthy do? He said she apologized and we don't have to worry about her Islamophobia. That never happened. And so these people are okay with Islamophobia. They're okay with trafficking in their own ways in anti-Semitism. They are not okay with having a Muslim have a voice on that committee.
Now, this is where the interview gets really, really awkward. Is when Dana Bash asks Adam Schiff whether or not he believes that Ilhan Omar and her comments are anti-Semitic.
Well, let me ask you, Congressman, you are Jewish, and you have said that you were worried about some tropes that the congressman used, and which, again, I want to be clear, you apologize for that one, all about the Benjamins. Do you believe that the pattern that your colleague here has put out there is, as Republicans are saying and some Democrats say, rise to the level of anti-Semitism?
Dana, I believe that this is all a pretext. And if you look at the leader of the Republican Party, Donald Trump, he is dining with white nationalists and anti-Semites. The people that Kevin McCarthy just put on committees like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others are speaking at white nationalist rallies. This is, as my colleague said, Bakersfield BS. This is all pretextual. And I don't accept the premise that this has anything to do with the conduct of any of the Democratic members. This is merely the weakness of Kevin McCarthy's speakership, that he's so reliant on these extreme members. I mean, how can you, on the one hand, suggest that these are some kind of legitimate basis for unseating Democrats from committees and put someone like George Santos on any committee? The hypocrisy just grabs you by the throat. So I don't want to dignify the pretext that they're giving for any of us. What they're doing is really catering to the most extreme members of their conference.
Yeah, so what I find to be fascinating about that is how Dana Bash, again, she asked some good introductory questions, right? But she just lets them deflect and not actually answer questions throughout the whole interview. And this is what the mainstream liberal media does with Democrats, right? When they're forced to confront Democrats on their lies and their hypocrisy and their crimes, they do it in the most softball way possible, right? But see, when it's a Republican, though, they don't allow them to do that, right? They don't allow Republicans to just deflect, to not answer questions. They go hard on Republicans, right? For example, check out this interview between Chuck Todd and Jim Jordan, in which Chuck Todd takes issue with Jim Jordan in his calls for the FBI to investigate Biden like they did Trump. Just look how adversarial Chuck Todd is towards Jim Jordan.
60 days before they actually executed the subpoena. And more importantly, the only time the public found out about it is because Donald Trump told the public about it. This was not some sort of, you paint it as a picture of the FBI did this, this, and this within hours of each other, when it was actually a year and a half of Donald Trump not complying with any of the requests from National Archives. A year and a half. This is not some sort of proof that somehow that they've weaponized and playing politics over here.
They raided Trump's home. They haven't raided Biden's home.
Because Biden didn't defy a subpoena, Congressman. He defied a subpoena. By the way, he had 60 days to comply with the subpoena before they actually executed.
President Trump had documents locked in a room with Secret Service protecting them. President Biden had documents in his garage and in a think tank that was funded by the Chinese. I think there's a difference. President Trump was the only guy who was actually president.
You talk about that. You're worried about the Chinese and Hunter Biden.
No, I'm just saying.
Are you worried about the Chinese and Donald Trump?
They took pictures of.
Are you at all worried about that?
No, I'm not. But they took pictures of the documents at Trump's house. They took no pictures of documents. In fact, it's not just me who would like to know what went on here. Senator Warner said it last week. He would like to get a briefing. He wants to see the documents. And guess what? The FBI is saying no, but they took pictures of the folders in Trump's home.
The issue is not whether what Joe Biden did.
No, the issue is equal treatment under the law. That's the issue.
No, the issue is
treatment under the law.
You do not seem to ever see the same conspiratorial problems when it's a Republican.
Those were all investigated for 4 years, and they continue to do it.
Their Durham investigation investigated everything you're trying to investigate and came up with nothing. Do you not trust Bill Barr and Mr. Durham?
The Mueller investigation, we had 2.5 years of this, and they were going to find Russian collusion, and guess what? They can't. Even though Adam Schiff told us that
the Durham investigation did not come up with any. They investigated all these concerns that you had about the FBI, about made-up snitches, all these things. They didn't find anything. Why is it that you want to reinvestigate it?
They found that Kevin Kleinsmith altered documents, and he pled guilty to it. That's finding. When you got someone at the FBI altering documents in front of the FISA court, that's not finding anything. That's pretty important, Chuck.
They did not find what you are claiming that is out there. Well, why couldn't Durham find it?
Yeah. So again, that's an amazing exchange because it does show you, again, how the liberal media treats Republicans versus Democrats, right? Dana Bash was not nearly as confrontational with those three Democrats, okay, and legitimate allegations against them as Chuck Todd was with Jim Jordan or Chuck Todd is with any Republican, right? And I know there are two different anchors, right? But I've shown you guys videos of how Chuck Todd does interviews with Democrats, and he's not nearly as confrontational as he is with Republicans, okay? He claims he's non-biased, right? He's not partisan, right? But again, when it's a Republican, he's going hard. And I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying I want to see that same type of smoke for all the politicians, right? Why in the world is it Democrats always get these softballs where they're allowed to, evade questions. They're allowed to not answer stuff. They're allowed to lie. And they just move on to the next question. Oh, I'm not going to press even harder on the fact that Adam Schiff openly lied about pushing a Russian collusion hoax. I'm just going to let him say it, and I'm not going to fight back, right? But when it comes to any claim that the Republicans make, whether it's true or not, right, the liberal media is pressing, right? They pressing with their narrative, okay? Again, it's just amazing. The dichotomy between how the liberal media treats conservatives and Republicans versus liberals and Democrats. And like I said, that interview on CNN, again, they asked some good opening questions, right? It's a good idea to have them up there to explain themselves. But at the same time, you got to press harder than that, right? You're not pressing hard enough. You're letting them deflect and obfuscate and not ask you to answer the question. So it was no point of actually doing the interview. No point. Again, it's absolutely amazing. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.